Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, this is 1984's CATHOUSE Fever. 1984's CATHOUSE Fever, and this is the poster for it with Rhonda Joe Petty and Becky Savage, who are both in the film. And this is part of the Vinegar Syndrome Peakorama Big 2 unit set with a film called Purely Physical, which I've also looked at on this YouTube page. And both of these films were directed by Chris Warfield, who had a pseudonym, at least for CATHOUSE Fever, of Billy Thornburg. If you look at the back here, we got some screenshots from this particular film. You can kind of see them a little bit here. And CATHOUSE Fever is 76 minutes long. It's from 1984, and we're going to enter into this beast right now. The tagline on the top of the poster art says, "California co-eds turned kinky for cash," with 2 exclamation marks. There's even a quote on here from X-Rated Cinema Magazine, I believe. It says, "Rhonda Joe Petty, the queen of kink." CATHOUSE Fever also stars Herschel Savage, Rick Cassidy, Marla Lee Gardner, Laverne Shields. So it says also the music was done by somebody or a group or something, an entity called Flambe. The most interesting thing about X-rated adult cinema is that a lot of the times who did the music is very mysterious. A lot of the time there are these bizarre aliases, and a lot of the time there are bizarre aliases in the credits at large in an X-rated film. You don't know who's who, you don't know if it's a real name, you don't know what's going on. Flambe. It's very, very interesting, especially for a film that is this jam-packed with amazing music. I love this movie so much. We're gonna get into it here, folks. Becky Savage, if you love Becky Savage, you're gonna love this movie. She's taking the lead role in this film. A lot of different settings, a lot of different emotional settings, a lot of different physical settings, and even different outfits and costumes as well. So this is Becky Savage's film, without a doubt, and you really get a chance to see her shine in this film. Let's get into CATHOUSE Fever, the film that in the trailer is utilizing music that is extremely close to the Ted Nugent, popular song. But in the film, in the actual film, that play on that Ted Nugent song is not actually in the film. So very interesting. Let's get into this movie here, folks. CATHOUSE Fever deals with a variety of different themes and pieces of a storyline. We look at female independence. We look at female loneliness. We look at female freedom, female introspection. And one of the biggest things here is female fantasy. You know, not only the ability for a woman to have sexual fantasy, but also the ability and the freedom, I want to say, the freedom for a woman to explore her fantasies, but at the same time explore her sexuality and the freedom of it, but also the limitations of it, and really she herself being the deciding force on how she wants to live her life sexually, and really kind of taking charge in almost a real feminist type of statement of a way. And this film definitely deals thematically and with the cinematography of the meeting of our fantasy with reality. And in CATHOUSE Fever, we're really looking at the way our fantasy shapes our reality and the power our fantasy has over reality in a positive light, and the ability for fantasizing, for fantasy, to tell us more about ourselves, tell us more about our needs and wants and desires and who we really are and what we long for. And so in a lot of regards, I would say CATHOUSE Fever shows the importance of fantasizing. You know, that seems to be a dirty word in a lot of circles amongst a lot of people, but this film shows the beauty and the benefit of it. CATHOUSE Fever is one girl's exploration of her own life, of her own self, of her own being, of her own sexuality, and kind of bridging the gap from her lonely apartment living and being a businesswoman, by day, and going back to her lonely apartment at night, a successful businesswoman at that, and then kind of bridging the gap and going into the world of Las Vegas. Prostitution house, and kind of losing her virginity and exploring her sexuality by being a paid sex worker, and the women she meets there and the men that she meets there. This is CATHOUSE Fever. The first thing I want to look at in this film, as I mentioned earlier, is the amazing palette of music in this piece. When the movie starts off, the opening title sequence is fantastic. It uses fire, flames. It also cuts back and forth with some live action that's happening in the film. Somebody walking through the city. And you're kind of getting pieces of the story just in the title credit sequence, but you're getting fire, and you're also getting awesome disco fused type music that's powerful, that's edgy, and it's really bringing you into the movie. We also have kind of silent, beautiful guitar pieces in here, even Becky Savage kind of miming, playing acoustic guitar, it seems, on a beach as well. So we have some guitar pieces in here, some exotic, some folky. We also have jazz in this movie. We even have elegant classical music in this movie. We even have offbeat, comedic cartoon type music, or almost like TV theme commercial type music in here, melding different themes that deal with kind of quirky comedy at certain elements of this film. And we also have psychedelic type music in here. For a film from 1984, I definitely feel a very strong 70s presence. There's some atmospheric electronic music in here, and then we also have some of my favorite pieces of music in CATHOUSE Fever, this unbelievable electronic 80s funk disco, electronica, pop fusion. There's a couple songs, it sounds like it's from a band, maybe it's Flambe, don't know, but it's loud, it's in your face, it's during the sex scenes, it's amazing, and it happens, I think there's about 2 or 3 tracks in the film where it happens. Very powerful, very hard-hitting, very funky, reminding me a bit of George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic, the elements in the film that I looked at on this YouTube page the night before with Keanu Reeves and Lori Loughlin, but more electronic. Maybe some of George Clinton's solo work. Really, really amazing, amazing stuff. There are so many elements, and we also have just natural sounds in here as well. We also have Becky Savage being a first-person narrator. We even have Becky Savage kind of breaking the fourth wall at the end of the film, which always seems to happen at the end of movies. Isn't it interesting, breaking that fourth wall? We even have reverb sound design in this movie as well. We even have a couple kind of bizarre, off-kilter comedic sound effects in the film during those couple comedic sequences. The movie is chock full of all of these different elements, really melding music from the 70s and music from the 80s, being 84. You got the jazz, you got the classical, you got the electronica, the disco. It's such a wide palette, so much diversity in here. We even have elements of hand percussion, almost ritualistically, and psychedelic atmospheric worlds. A little bit dark. Sometimes little tinges of darkness as well. And so you meld these worlds of classical elegance with sleazy funk, sleazy electronic disco funk. Okay, so you bring that stuff in there as well. The music in this film is some of my favorite music in an X-rated film. I mean, just amazing, amazing stuff. The cinematography in here, very cool overhead shots of city and shots of Las Vegas. And excuse me, I don't know if those were stock photos of Las Vegas, but also great, beautiful shots of the beach. It looks like the beach during off season, although there's some surfers out there. You can see Becky Savage in a whole new light in these scenes where she's wearing jeans, or one scene where she's wearing shorts and she's holding her acoustic guitar, and you get the elements of the acoustic guitar being an extension of her sexuality as well, and kind of the way she would touch a man's penis, the way she would touch her guitar. You know, she plays her songs. Her guitar doesn't make her feel oh so lonely. There's an amazing shot at the beginning of the movie that shows the convergence of fantasy and reality using editing and cinematography, and it's done in such a professional, powerful, beautiful way. Really, really awesome. We have psychedelic neon kaleidoscope lighting in the last sex scene of the film, which is really intense and wild, and very atmospheric. We have some really wild, crazy cuts and edits in the film, utilizing comedy in the prostitution house, in the whorehouse. We have a character who was instructed by his wife not to talk, so that he has electrical tape around his mouth. Very interesting things going on there. Rhonda Joe Petty is the head of the prostitution, the girls' house. And I gotta tell you, there's something very, very powerful about Becky Savage. I mean, if you know Becky Savage, if you've seen her work, I first saw her in Starship Eros, which I've also looked at on this YouTube page, but if you've seen her work, you will know that she has a lazy eye. And she powerfully embraces that, it seems. It doesn't shy away from it, especially in the beginning scenes of this film. I mean, it is right there. It is obvious, it's there, but it's like she has completely embraced it as part of her beauty, her sexuality, as the actress, Becky Savage. And it's, I gotta tell you, quite inspiring, because by today's standards, she probably wouldn't be allowed, to do films or modeling or anything. And she really, sometimes it's worse than other times with, her eye, but it's unbelievable. The confidence, or just the way she allowed it to be there, right there, front and center in the camera. In the beginning of the movie, you really see that. Becky is called Becky in the film. Rhonda is called Rhonda in the film. Very interesting, which tends to happen, I would say, more so in X-rated adult cinema. And the interesting thing is, Becky is introspective in this film. She's also just wild with her dirty talk in the movie. Really, really sexy dirty talk. And she talks a lot about her best quality in the film, which are her long legs. And she mentions that a few times during the film as she's doing first person narration, for us, but also I believe maybe to another character in the film as well. And the interesting thing about the first-person narration in this film is that it soon breaks the fourth wall, as I mentioned previously, with one of the themes of the film of women's sexual empowerment. Becky Savage is amazing. She is the lead in the film, and she has a lot of the sex scenes in this movie, and the sex scenes, I just absolutely love the sex scenes in this film. I think they're very hot. They're very, I like that they're longer. I do like that they're longer. We have great sex scenes with different outfits. If you love leg warmers, you're gonna love a group of scenes in this film. If you love leg warmers, you're gonna love a group of scenes in this film. If you love butts, there's no anal in here, but if you love butts, you're gonna get great shots of the butt, the vagina from behind, the whole nine. If you love a variety of different outfits and costumes, even Native American headdress, things like that, you're gonna love it in here as well. And there's a lesbian bathtub scene. There's The sex scenes are just very, very on fire to me, and they're all great. The girls look amazing. There's a couple girls in here. I don't know what their names are. I'm gonna have to track them down. They were awesome. One looks like almost like Leslie Beauvais' sister or something. I've only seen her in this film, I believe, and she is very attractive. Everybody is just awesome. I love Becky Savage in CATHOUSE Fever. She's awesome, and the movie melds comedy with kind of this indie vibe with an X-rated film as well. She's really, really hot in her sex scenes and just completely embracing them and owning them, and you feel them. They're wild, they're sultry, they're crazy, they're awesome. CATHOUSE Fever is 76 minutes of awesomeness. I love this movie so much, as I said, just great vibes abound. The closing credits of the film also utilize great style, the way the opening credits did as well. And I'd also like to say, as a cut into this edit of the video here on this film, is that interestingly enough, tying into the themes of the female, we have her fantasies represented in this film and showing an emphasis and a focus on the woman achieving orgasm. As a matter of fact, I believe definitely in the second fantasy that climaxes the film, but definitely in the fantasies, I think all of them or both of them, the man after he ejaculates will continue having sex with the woman, with Becky, until she orgasms. And this is something that really shocked me, really got to me, really did something. It was powerfully done within the scope of this story and the themes. You know, we also have Becky in this film. In a way, it's almost like it's timeless, because as she's cutting, the film cuts in between. You got the narration from Becky, you also got the cuts of her walking on the beach, and you start to think, wait a second, is the beach the real time and what has happened is in the past? And is she kind of telling us this story as she's narrating it, of course, but is she telling us this story? What is the timing of the movie that we're watching? What basically, when is the present tense? Very, very interesting in the edits, in the cuts. The edits not only work with time, but they also work with comedy. This is 1984's CATHOUSE Fever right here. This is it, folks. This is awesome, awesome stuff here, and it's more than you're thinking it is from the title and from the summary on the poster. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like CATHOUSE Fever. Chock full of sex scenes the way it should be. Thank you so much, and good night.